Hello, Cherries fans and football fans. Welcome to Up the Cherries in all departments. This is the first of a series of programmes dedicated to England and the Euros, Euro 24. Tonight we are picking our squad of 26, who we believe should be on the plane to Germany. And joining us tonight to pick that squad, first up is the man, the face, the personality of the channel, also known as James Corden or Paddy from Emmerdale, depending on what you want to call him. It's Mr. Craig Beasley.
How you doing, mate? All good?
Yeah, it's all good, fella. It's all good. It's nice to be back. So,
Yeah, definitely. Looking forward to this. Actually,
yes,
it's going to be
yeah,
good.
looking forward to it. But just so you don't have all the talk tonight, we've got another guest who's obviously known to the channel, the man of knowledge, Mr. Manny.
There he is. How you doing, mate?
Gentlemen, good to be back here. Good to be back, Mr. Harrison. Good to see you as always.
Good to see you.
It's yeah, I've loved the work obviously that we did for the World Cup not too long ago. So the Euros is certainly something I'm looking forward to, and quite excited. Of course, we all know the story with England, especially based on tournaments gone by, but hope springs eternal, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I love the best thing I love about this time, the build up to it, is digging out the old football album and listening to the likes of World in Motion and Free Lions and Back Home and getting the buzz. So
Can you remember the little coins they used to do as well?
Yeah, I've still got them somewhere. Yeah, I've still got them. Yeah, they did a squad, and then Hoddle picked his squad, and then they did a little book of 5 coins that actually made the squad. Because there was some in the book that didn't. It was quite. Yeah, I do remember that. Yeah, I think that was done with Sainsbury's. I think, but
I think it was. Yeah, I think
it
was.
Yeah, good times. But anyway, should we start our own selection? Obviously, it's all just for fun.
Of course.
Mr. Southgate names his 26 on Tuesday, the 21st of May, I believe it is.
Yeah.
So yeah, it'd be interesting to see how ours compares to his, and then we can have a look at his when he announces his, and have a little debate about that one. But shall we start with the goalkeepers?
Of course. And what you just see on your screen there is the selection as we go. We will be adding players to that. It's not just a nice looking graph. We will be adding players to that graph. But yes, let's go to the goalkeepers and let's just go back to this screen. And we can all hear each other, but we've all disappeared for a moment. But here we go.
Cool. So for me, easy pick. I think the 3 goalkeepers, but let's just have a look at some of the ones that might be contenders. I'm sure there's a couple of howlers in here that we wouldn't touch at all, but obviously Mr. Safe Hands, Jordan Pickford, has never let England down, has he?
No.
And Ramsdale, who's not had the greatest of seasons at club level, due to obviously not playing, being number 2. Sam Johnston and Dean Henderson, both at Palace, I believe. So that's an interesting one. Kind of sort of played half the season each, I think, by the looks of things. Yeah. And then I believe there's a few more, isn't there?
Well, let me go on to the next page. There we are. And there you have Fraser Forster, who is at Spurs. 36 years old now. I'm surprised by that. Time's flown by.
1 appearance this season, so I don't think he's going to be much of a contender, is he? Nick Pope, what's the situation with Nick Pope? Is anybody aware? I know he's near in fitness, but is he going to be fit enough to be picked, or would you pick him? Or...
I think it's fair to say, Matthew, that if Pope doesn't get any involvement in Newcastle's final game of the season, then that's his England chances gone, really, because when he sustained that terrible shoulder injury, it was very doubtful as to whether he'd be fit in time for the rest of the season. Martin Dubravka has, of course, since been playing, and although the Slovakian, who will be his country's starter at the Euros, did his best, the consensus from many Newcastle fans is that Pope is just that much better, although he has his own failings in a way. Surprisingly, for some reason, Southgate declined to pick Pope in his earlier squads when Pope was fit. I think because Pope notoriously has a bit of a problem when it comes to kicking the ball for some reason. He doesn't kick very well. And it's become the norm these days for goalkeepers to be very adept with their feet, which is at least partly why we signed Ramsdale to replace Bernd Leno, and why, ironically, we signed David Raya to replace Ramsdale. I
Yeah.
don't think Pope is going to be able to make it because he didn't make any of Southgate's squads the earlier part of the season, which is a shame, really, because I do like him. I think we can safely rule him out. If he does get to play the final game of the season, then it could be interesting. But even then, I just think the poor fella's run out of time.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair enough. What about James Trafford at Burnley? Do you reckon it's a tournament too soon for him? I think so.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. I think, yeah, I can't see it. I think he's got a very good future. Could he be England number one day? Possibly, but I don't think he'll dislodge somebody who I'll mention in a moment. But I think, yeah, he's got very good future. But yeah, I think it's a little bit too soon. And then of course that man at the end, Jack Butland, who's at Rangers. You know, the man that was, very heavily, you know, tipped to actually years ago to, be the England number one, hasn't really panned out for him that way. But he's a very, very good goalkeeper, very reliable goalkeeper, a safe goalkeeper. Um, but I think eight very good goalkeepers. I mean, to be honest, we're in a position now where we're quite privileged again. We're quite
Mm.
privileged again because we did have
Mm.
a spell, didn't we? Where and I won't. Well, to be honest, I'm gonna have to mention him now. Paul Robinson. When he made that mistake, of course, ruined our chance of going to the Euros in 2008. I think personally, at that point we were struggling goalkeeper wise. Now I think we're very, very solid in that position. But I tell you what, shall we pick the three?
Yeah.
Have we got any more?
No, no, no. Let's pick the three.
So
Pick the
let's
three.
go back to there. We all are. There we are. There's our faces, and there's our graph. So this is where the arguments ensue. Um, what three would you pick, Matt?
Right.
First.
Are you talking to me? Sorry.
Yeah, what three
So,
would you pick?
well, I think one that all three of us would definitely agree on would be Jordan Pickford.
I
So
agree with that. Yeah.
he's straight in there, isn't he? Really?
Would you
Um,
agree with that, Manny?
I
I
mean,
guess.
it's pretty. He's really the best of the bunch right now, given that many of them are either not playing or haven't been in contention for England for a long time. So
Mhm.
he's pretty much the one. And it will be interesting to see whether or not he continues to play for England beyond these Euros. Maybe he'll be looking at the 2026 World Cup as his potential England swan song. But we'll see how things pan out with Mr. Pickford.
I've got another goalkeeper in mind for 2026 who will be England number one. I will say it. Well, I'll say it now. The man that I think will take over from Pickford, and I think he will be England number one. You might not agree with me here, Manny, but I think Rambo will get the nod at the next World Cup as England number one. Am I going mad or am I talking some sense?
You are talking some sense in a way, but it will all depend on where Rambo goes. I know we were
Yeah.
talking about the possibility of him returning to Bournemouth, but again, with Travers playing well and Neto still on
Yeah.
the books, it could lead to a few issues. You might need to end up selling, saying goodbye to Darren Randolph and Florian Radu. And I really don't know if that would necessarily be the best move for either the club or even the player. He needs to move on to a club where his services will be appreciated, where he can develop
Yeah.
himself. And if he does go on to perform better, then who knows? Maybe he could be the number one for the upcoming World Cup. We will have to see. And I've not been a fan of him in terms of his ability, but if he can develop himself and really, take his potential departure from Arsenal as a positive and say, you know what, it's a kick up the backside and I need to work even harder, who knows? He could very well end up doing it. I have my reservations, though, gentlemen, on whether or not he even should be in the squad because he's hardly played all season. And whenever he's played, he hasn't exactly covered himself in glory, whether it was the League Cup defeat to West Ham United or the FA Cup defeat to Liverpool, where he was definitely at fault for one of the goals that was conceded from a corner. And even against Brentford, although he did, he did manage to pull off two excellent saves, but his error for the Johan Wissa goal was never going to be forgotten. And maybe Arteta's taken some of his confidence away. Maybe he's a guy who probably needs to be playing first-team football. And certainly at Bournemouth, at Sheffield United, he was the number one, even if those seasons didn't go according to plan. I just don't know if I would necessarily have him in the squad, and it would really be a tough call to make him number two to Pickford if he hasn't been given regular playing time. But then when you take a look at the other goalkeepers, with the exception of Butland, many of them haven't been playing regularly.
Yeah.
Very true. Yeah, very, very good point. Matt, would you put Rambo on the plane?
Yeah, I mean, Manny's point is very valid in terms of his playing time this season. So, and I think, Manny's right. I think he needs to be playing for his confidence and things like that. I think if you're looking at it from a Southgate point of view, will he be on the plane? I think he will.
He will. I would take him. I think he's a very, very good goalkeeper, highly rated goalkeeper. He's only going to get better. But yeah, I would put him on that plane.
So, but third choice, well, third or second or whoever, to pick a third goalkeeper is a bit tricky now, isn't it? I mean, you've got Sam Johnston who was playing, and then you've got Dean Henderson who was playing to like half and half, weren't they?
So Sam Johnston, 23 appearances this season, at a decent Palace side. Henderson, 19 again for Palace. There's an argument for both of those. But then if you go to, I can't see Fraser Foster. I don't think it's going to happen.
Nope.
One appearance. Nope. Don't get me wrong. Rambo is in a top side in Arsenal. It's not a case of for Fraser Forster. I just don't think he's anywhere near. Rambo, you could say that he's always pushing Raya, and I don't think Forster's gonna really do that. Nick Pope, I think he's had too many injuries, unfortunately.
Yeah, but I think if he was fit, he'd be on the plane.
Yeah, that's a call really for Southgate, and yeah, I completely agree with you on this.
But I don't think he's fit enough to be, to make it. So, like Manny said, we rule him out. But I think if he was fit, he would be one of those three, definitely.
There is an argument for Trafford that he's played so many games between the sticks for Burnley. But then again, some Burnley fans have rated their other goalkeeper. I think it's Murican. Is that? Am I correct in thinking that?
Yeah.
They've rated him better than Trafford. So again, there's a bit of a strong nod for Jack Butland.
I think the thing with Butland is that he seems to have had a really good season at Rangers, and I know they've really bigged him up up there. So maybe we go a little bit adventurous and maybe we pick Jack Butland as the third goalkeeper.
Manny, what do you think?
This is a real conundrum. I think we can safely say that James Trafford can be ruled out because, when Vincent Kompany made him the number one for the season at Burnley, ahead of Muric, who was literally the anchorman behind Burnley's run to the championship title, I was thinking to myself, this is a decision that could very well come back to haunt Kompany later on. And it proved to be the case. I think the boy is a very good shot stopper, and he certainly proved his worth when he helped England's under-17 team under Lee Carsley, Ashley Cole and company win the Euros. But it's a huge step up to the Premier League, and although he did make some good saves, on many occasions he was found wanting. And when you consider that he had several games where Burnley would concede 4 or 5 goals, it couldn't have done the boys' confidence any good. Eventually, Muric was brought back in for the run-in, and he actually distinguished himself well playing. And there's going to be a part of me that thinks that maybe Muric should have started at Burnley since from the first game. At least that way you'd guarantee some solid performances and blood Trafford in. So Trafford could have played in the cup games, given himself a test there. If you're given too much too soon, it can't be good for your confidence. So England caps, none. Definitely a tournament too early for him. 2026 would definitely have him as a shout-out. Now, the Johnston-Henderson conundrum is interesting because if we could go back to that slide for a minute, please. Both of those goalkeepers have played at Crystal Palace this season, and you can see right there, 23-24 appearances, 23 for Johnston, 19 for Henderson. And both of them, surprisingly, have had an almost equivalent number of clean sheets. I would go so far to say that Henderson's clean sheet ratio is perhaps, if you do some quick maths, at least marginally in some ways. Actually, you know what? Johnston's clean sheet ratio is marginally better than Henderson's in a way. No, actually, Henderson's is marginally better. For heaven's sake, thank God I get it together.
It's close, isn't it? It's close, though.
It is close because, it's as if they both have one clean sheet for every less than 4 games, 3.8 or 3.9 something if you do the math in your head. And I look at Henderson, and I think he's had a very strong ending to the season, despite being very inconsistent. And bear in mind, he was actually in the England squad in 2021, only to depart injured and have Ramsdale take his place. And since then, Ramsdale has been picked more frequently by England. And I'd go so far to say that Henderson might have made a case for himself. If Ramsdale has to be in the squad, then there should be a case for some other person who can also do a job of pushing Pickford a great deal. Because I take a look at Ramsdale, and I think the fact that he's only had 11 games this season, I don't know if he's got a strong enough season behind him to be able to push for the number one spot. And Henderson has actually played quite a bit more games. Johnson is now actually ruled out for the rest of the season because I believe he had elbow surgery. So Henderson has been playing, and Johnson will also tragically be missing the Euros. I feel for the poor boy. I think he's been excellent, really, for Crystal Palace in many ways. So if Pickford and Ramsdale are in the squad, it's a conundrum. Do you pick Henderson, who is of a similar age to Ramsdale, maybe marginally older? Or do you go for someone like a Jack Butland, who isn't too much older than Pickford, but who could actually, on the basis of his season, bring a level of confidence into the team that could keep Pickford and Ramsdale on their toes? I'm going to sort of throw a spanner in the works and say, you know what? If you got to pick Pickford and if you got to pick Ramsdale, as Southgate has done, as Matt has mentioned from Southgate's point of view, I'd go for Jack Butland.
Totally
because we all remember when Southgate picked his goalkeepers for the 2018 World Cup. He made the seismic decision to drop Joe Hart and that poor fellow has never played for England since. Now, of course, he has since moved on to happier things, especially at Celtic, where they've just won a third consecutive Scottish title. If they win the Scottish Cup, that'll be another double and a wonderful send-off for the big man. But I think it's fair to say that his England days have long since been done and dusted, but there is no reason why Jack Butland shouldn't be considered as more of a left wing pick. Because I would think that if you have a better performing goalkeeper, even if he is slightly older in the squad, maybe he knows his role in that he won't play, but he will certainly add a great deal. And it certainly won't send a message that you don't trust either Pickford or Ramsdale because Butland is a safety net. Far from it. It just means that you're adding to the squad. But again, putting myself in Matthew's shoes and adopting a Southgate point of view, I think he might be tempted to go with Henderson because I don't think Butland will necessarily be on Southgate's radar. He hasn't been for quite some time, so it would be a very left wing pick for him. And Henderson at least was in Southgate's plans for the Euros, only to see injury scupper them. So it might be a question of familiarity. There is a part of me that thinks that I would take Butland personally. And I think Butland does have the edge over Henderson. I just fear that for reasons that Matthew has mentioned, Southgate might go for Henderson instead.
Do you know what? It's made me think as well, because I was all for Butland. See, this is a difficult one. I was all for Butland, However, Henderson, over the past couple of seasons has been, fairly consistent. He's done a decent job. I think he's a young goalkeeper. He's a future. But then again, a 31-year-old isn't an old goalkeeper.
Far
It's
from
not
it.
an old keeper. So goalkeepers, can play, up to their 40s. Some even go beyond that. I think I'm trying to think of, was it Peter Shilton that
Peter
went?
Shilton.
Yes.
I think he was
Yeah.
40 at the 1990 World Cup, wasn't he? Wasn't he 40 at the World Cup in 1990?
I think so. Yeah, something like that.
I shall confirm that for you, gentlemen. But
There you go.
the thing about Schilt was that although he was still a magnificent shot stopper, penalties were no longer his fort. And given that Bobby Robson, Lord rest his soul, only made one substitution, bringing on Trevor Stephen for Terry Butcher, there certainly would have been some room for a second substitution. Maybe take off Schilt and bring on Chris Woods. And of course, David Seaman was in the squad and was in the squad for the first game against Ireland and Cagliari, but sadly, he had an injury and was replaced by Dave Besant. So Peter Leslie Shilton, date of birth 18th of September 1949, which meant that, yes, you are correct, gentlemen, he was in his 40s when he played at Italia 90.
Well, I reckon then, I think my vote is going with Jack Butland for third choice. Well, not third choice, but for their goalkeeper. I'm going with Jack Butland.
Me too.
So that's 2-1.
Yeah, I was thinking I was thinking Dean Henderson, but I think Jack Butland. Both are very, very good goalkeepers, and I think both deserve to be in the squad. And well, there's only room for one of them, I think. So there he is in that very. That was always an interesting kit. That was that lime green kit. I really do.
I think that was. I think that was one of the last ones Umbro made for England, I think.
Yeah, it was, wasn't it?
But,
I remember.
Anywho, should we take a look at the defenders? Now, I think these are all mixed in as right backs, left backs, centre backs. So if we just have a look at the...
let's go back to it then.
If we have a look at the ones in contention.
There's the goalkeeper still. But let's flick on to the next screen. Here we go.
Right, there we go. So obviously we've got Kyle Walker.
Yeah.
Again, another steady season at City. player who I've always rated. Again, another player I've always rated, Kieran Trippier.
Hmm.
Now Trent's an interesting one. Now, I think he's more use in the midfield. So he's versatile as well. I think
Yes,
left
yeah.
back's going to be tricky because we're not sure if Luke Shaw's going to be fit or is he going to be
Mm.
fit. They're still saying on Sky Sports that he's injured with a muscle injury, so it looks like he may miss out. Ben Chilwell,
Mm.
obviously he's another left back that be in contention. Some interesting ones here.
Yeah, there is.
Now Reece James is just coming back for fitness. I think for me, he probably misses the squad.
Yes.
Um,
Mm.
Joe Gomez, again, versatile, can play right back, can play centre back. I think he will probably miss the squad. I mean, Rico Lewis is an interesting one if Shaw is injured.
He's a good player.
Good
Very,
player, I
very good
like
player.
him.
Yeah.
Konsa at Villa.
Had a very, very good season.
He's had a very good season, and he's obviously recently earned his 2 caps.
Hmm.
So there's some interesting names there. Obviously, Tomori, is that how you pronounce it?
Yep.
Fikayo
Tomori.
Tomori.
I like him. I
Yeah.
like him, and what I've seen of him, at AC Milan, I think he's a good, strong defender. But then there's other candidates as well. Obviously, Maguire, I think he's injured at the moment, but apparently he's going to make the FA Cup squad for United.
Hmm.
I think he's one that Southgate would take a gamble on, and I think I personally would as well, because he has, in fairness to Harry Maguire, never really let England down, has he?
No.
Um, John Stones, I think he's come on leaps and bounds this season. And when City played against Bournemouth, he played in that kind of orthodox position, didn't he? Where he was
Mhm.
kind of running through the midfield and picking the balls up and creating, wasn't he? So as a footballer, he's a good player and also a very good defender. Lewis Dunk, you know what you get with Lewis Dunk. Um,
Yeah.
you know, good, tough tackling defender, takes no nonsense. Um, these two are quite interesting for me. Levy Colwill, is that how you
Yeah.
pronounce it?
Levy Colwill. Yeah.
He was fantastic at Brighton that season he had on loan, and I think
Hmm.
I think he's developing really, really well. And I like him. He's my kind of player.
Yeah.
Um, and then I think this is a player you like, isn't it, Craig? This one.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll tell you what. I'll say. I think Mark Gurry is a fantastic defender. I think he's a fantastic defender. And I'll say it now. I think he should be on the plane because I think he offers something a little bit different. He's strong. He's knowledgeable. He gets himself in the right position. And he's only a youngster. And I think although would he start? Probably not. I think he is a player who is reliable if needed to be called upon.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that. I mean, yeah, there's another player I like the look of as well.
Hmm.
There's a couple here. Obviously, Mr. Mings is going to miss out, obviously, with his
Yeah.
ACL injury, which he sustained earlier on in the season, which is a
Mhm.
shame because I like Tyrone as a defender.
Yeah, I do.
Um, Eric Dyer, um, interesting one with Dyer, isn't it?
I remember when he scored that penalty against Colombia at the 2018 World Cup, and I had to kind of pinch myself because as everybody knows, anybody who is um, you know not an England fan will might not know, but we are absolutely atrocious at penalties. And when we won a penalty shootout, you know, um, you remember it, don't you? Um,
Yeah, oh yeah, it was a head in your hands moment.
Yeah, it was just like, oh my word, what's he doing walking up? And
Yeah,
then buried it, and it was
and he
like,
buried it.
so
Yeah,
yeah, I think he's a good defender. I think he is a good defender. I think he's been unlucky during his career. Um, that I think that's all there is to it, really.
yeah. But there's one there that stands out for me, and I think you've heard me sing his praises before, Craig. The young lad at Everton.
Yeah,
Now, I like him, I really
yeah.
do. But again, is this a tournament that's come too early for him, or is he someone you take for experience? He may not play, but he might be involved in the squad, be a bit of experience for the lad.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's an interesting selection of defenders there to pick. What was it? 8, is it? We're picking. Is that
Yeah,
working out
exactly.
right?
Yeah, is it a Theo Walcott moment though? If we take Branthwaite, but although saying that he's not as young as Theo was when he went. I think Theo, had a lot of talent, but it was
I kind of
definitely.
see this lad maybe stepping into the likes of Maguire's shoes.
Yeah,
Um,
I can see that.
so does he come along on the squad? I mean, at the end of the day, it's us picking it. So if we were picking the squad, do we take him for a bit of experience? You know,
W-
It's interesting. I mean, we need to start somewhere, don't we? So do we start with
Yeah.
the right backs?
Well, just going back to Branthwaite, I think, considering he's played 40 times for an Everton side who have been struggling this season, and in the end, they've stayed up quite comfortably. Don't get, yeah, you know, there's always going to be those people that turn around and say, well, at the end of the day, it's not a very, the three teams that come up weren't very good, but they've stayed up comfortably. And without that points deduction, they'd be on 48 points alongside us. So I think he's done a very, very good job, considering they were leaking goals for fun last year.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think he's a great shout. But yeah, I think let's start off with the right back. The first choice right back. Who would that be for you?
Manny, take it away.
Well, I mean, when it comes to right backs, there really is no other person who I would have as the first choice, and that is, of course, Kyle Walker. Pains me
Yep.
to say it, given that he is, of course, a former Tottenham defender and also the Manchester City captain that will end up scuppering our chances of winning the league this season. I know, Craig, I never know. But, at his age, still going very strong, 82 caps, magnificent servant for the country. I think he could end up earning 100 caps by the time of the tournament. So he definitely would be my first choice. And I think both of you can agree with me that Kieran Trippier also has to be on the plane. Set piece
Yeah.
specialist of sorts in a way. That goal he scored in the World Cup was absolute quality, I thought.
Mhm.
And, since then, he has seldom let England down. And with him in the team, you can either use him as more of that right wing back with Kyle Walker slipping into a right centre back role if Southgate chooses to play a back three, or he can play right back on his own as perfect cover, or and this is something which I really don't like seeing Southgate do. He ends up being switched onto the left to play as more of an inverted left back. Now,
Yeah.
call me a football snob, but there is something unnatural about a right-footed left back that I just don't really, really like. When you see a left-footed left back bombing down the pitch, putting in some of those crunching tackles and whipping those balls in beautifully, like a Stuart Pearce or a Kenny Sansom or a Nigel Winterburn or an Ashley Cole
Mhm.
used to do. Um, there's hardly a greater sight. And of course, we all remember Luke Shaw's exploits for England, but as Matt has mentioned, his injury troubles means that I don't think he'll be involved in the FA Cup squad.
Yeah.
And his injury-riddled season with only 15 appearances means that he will sadly have to miss out.
I don't
But
know though. See, this is my argument. If he is fit, because of how reliable he's been and how much he's a bit of a warrior. he's one of those players that is reliable, will throw himself into challenges. I would take him, regardless of how little game time he's had this season and how many struggles. I would take him. I take Luke Shaw because Manchester United, in all honesty, have missed him and
They have.
tragically missed him this season. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, I personally
Oh,
I'd still
sorry.
take him if he can get fit.
Yeah, I get that. That's fair enough. Are we saying just very quickly that we've made the two decisions on the right back so far? Carl
Yes,
and
but
Trippier.
yeah,
Yeah,
there is actually one more that I would like to consider, but we will speak of Luke Shaw first. Now we'll get to him. Yeah.
yeah, go for
Okay,
it.
'cause I was just going to quickly say about Trent. What about Trent? Do you put him in with the midfield? I still think I would take him, but
See, it's a nice one to have because at the end of the day, a defender who can play in midfield, it's kind of it gives you a bit more flexibility, and the more players that can do that, that you've got in your squad, the better, because who knows what might happen, you know. So
mm,
if a midfielder gets injured, touch wood, it won't happen. But if somebody does get injured, seems to happen in competitions for us, unfortunately. Then we've got some very, very good backup, very adequate backup. So, do we put him in with the defenders or the midfielders? I would say we put him in with the defenders, and I think because we've got abundance of, talent in midfield. Let's be fair. In midfield we absolutely ooze class. I can
absolutely.
mention some names now. We'll come through to them. We'll go into it in a bit more detail. But Bellingham, Rice, Jack Grealish, Saka. These sort of players. There's more. There's more. Foden as well. So midfield, in all honesty, I would put him in with the defenders, but just have him because there might be a situation in a game where we need somebody a little bit more defensive in that midfield. We're beating, for example, a French team. It could happen. We're beating a French team. Do we shut up shop? Do we go a bit more defensive against them to make sure that we protect ourselves against Mbappe? Or do we just go for the juggler?
Yeah,
And
I do get what you're saying, but Manny wanted to make a point, didn't he, of another right back?
yeah,
Should we
go
I
for
hear
it.
that?
did. I
Let's hear.
did, gentlemen. I did, gentlemen, and thank you. And you know, I am starting to see your point about Luke Shaw because the other left backs that we have are either too young or too inconsistent. That will come to them.
Mhm.
And as far as Trent is concerned, it might interest you boys to note that Southgate, in his more recent internationals, has preferred to play him as a midfielder wearing the number 10 jersey.
Yeah.
And the
Yes.
biggest issues regarding Trent at Liverpool is that although he does whip in a mean free kick and certainly knows how to contribute to the attack magnificently, like Alexander Zinchenko on the left for Arsenal, this boy can't defend for Tuffy.
To be
I know it
fair,
sounds a little bit.
no, you're spot on. Absolutely spot on.
Yeah, yeah. So I know it sounds a bit harsh in a way, but there have been moments where defensively he has been found wanting. And so you've already got two solid right backs in Walker and Trippier. And if Arnold comes in, maybe it'll make that tilted a little bit, tilt that side a bit further down, giving it a bit more weight. I actually do like the look of him as more of a right-sided midfielder because he will give
Mhm.
some options in a game, and you can bring him on as an impact player on the bench. But if we were to go to the next slide, please.
Oh,
The next slide.
there we
I
go.
want you,
Sorry.
gentlemen. I would like you to take a look on the left. Ezri Konsa, a
Yeah.
very big part of the magnificent season that Aston Villa have had, qualifying for the Champions League, having secured fourth position, and being the only English club team to make a European semi-final this season. Shame that that the Olympiacos game proved to be a step too far. Of course, Olympiacos play European football every single season. And of course, they did knock out Arsenal in the out of the Europa League in 2020, if memory serves me right. So they're no mugs. And it was a case of a lack of European experience for many of the boys, running on fumes with so many injuries. But Ezri has been a constant. And Emery has used him on many occasions as a centre back, being partnered with Pau Torres. And I think that those two have been the best centre back pairing, with the Polish international Matthew Cash. Doesn't sound a very Polish name, I know, but
No.
whenever Cash has been used as a right back, it's been Konsa and
Mhm.
Pau Torres being used as a centre back pairing, and they've done very well. But whenever Unai Emery has wanted to have a more defensively sound right back in mind, he's put Konsa there and had Cash come on as a substitute so that Konsa can move back into the centre. What you get with Ezri Konsa is wonderful versatility and someone who can play both as a right back and a right centre back. So even if he may not necessarily do enough to dislodge either Walker or Trippier from the right back slot, he is magnificent cover. And that was really exemplified perfectly when England played Brazil at Wembley. Walker had to go off with an injury. Trippier, Trent, Reece James and company were all injured. Ben White threw a strop and didn't want to be picked, so it was Konsa who came in. And Konsa didn't do a half bad job marking Vinicius Jr. and not really letting him have too much of an impact. It was just unfortunate that the soon-to-be Real Madrid youngster, Endrick, was able to score the winner and pretty much add a blemish to our Wembley record, while also giving Dorival Jr.'s young team a historic and memorable win. But Konsa distinguished himself very well in that game. And I would like to think that on the strength of the season he's had at club level, and also how well he performed in that circumstance, he should definitely be on the plane as someone who can cover for both Walker and Trippier. And I wouldn't want you to write off Joe Gomez either. 50 club appearances for Liverpool. He is someone who is very comfortable playing at right back and has deputised for the injured Trent Alexander-Arnold magnificently. And whenever Andrew Robertson has been injured, he's played at left back. Again, I do not like him being played at left back because he's right-footed. And whenever he's deputised for Trent at right back, he's done an excellent, excellent job. And he is, of course, someone who is, with his added versatility, was picked for those two friendlies against England and I think it was Germany, right?
Yep.
So there's no reason why he shouldn't be on the plane either. As far as Rico Lewis is concerned, I don't think he might have made barely enough appearances in the league, but I really don't think he's done enough to necessarily demand that he get picked. For me, I wouldn't mind seeing Ezri Konsa and Joe Gomez being picked as cover for the squad, because both of these two players, I mean, they are fairly young, 26 years old, and obviously when the likes of Walker and Trippier decide to call it quits, these are two defenders that could very well be in the forefront for England's selection, especially if Ben White continues to act like a baby and Fikayo Tomori ends up being sadly overlooked by Southgate yet again. Mm-hmm. And this poor chap, you wonder what more he has to do to get in the get into Southgate's thoughts. Of course, you know, as hope springs eternal, you can always say that Tomori never dies. So maybe there's hope for him, I guess. But I take a look at Ezri Konsa, and I think he has to be a shoe-in for the squad as right-back cover. He can also cover for the centre-backs, definitely. And we may come back to Joe Gomez later on, but I would like to see Konsa in the squad. I think Reece James's time has run out, frankly. So Konsa for me. I don't know what you guys will think.
I think personally, Manny sold that one to me. So yeah, I like the sound of that.
Yeah, I think Konsa, you know, has had a fantastic season, you know, and I think deserves the nod. So yeah, I think Manny, you do sell players well.
Should be an agent, Manny.
Yeah, exactly.
I try, mate. I'm not perfect, but I try. I mean, obviously, I see a lot of football and I see what's going on, And I just think that Konsa really, impressed with the way he conducted himself. So, you can't ignore a guy like him for the season he's had. And Southgate definitely was impressed by him. So I'm sure he has to be picked. And those two squads, mind you, would have effectively been a last chance saloon for players to audition for spots in the squad, which is why when it comes to the centre backs, a spoiler alert, I think Lewis has dunked himself out of contention. That error against Brazil, unforgivable.
Yeah. No, completely agree. Completely agree with that.
So how many have we got on the list so far then, Craig?
We've got 3. So we have got Kyle Walker, we got Kieran Trippier, and we got Ezri Konsa.
Cool. Okay. See, going back just to the left backs very quickly, I think I would take a gamble on Shaw if he's fit.
I would.
I think
so.
I like Shaw. I've always rated him. So I think for left back, I'm going to say Shaw.
I'm going to agree with you on that. I really like Luke Shaw. Of course, he scored the goal against Italy in the final of 2020. And some great goal. His crossing ability is good. He seems to be quite attack minded. I think, yeah. And I honestly think, yeah, I would give him the nod. I would give him the nod.
So in terms of a backup left back,
well, this is where it gets
or
difficult.
Could be somebody that would be starting ahead of Shaw if he's still not fully match fit. I think really, I mean, I know Rico Lewis is a talented player. I know Trippier can play left back, like Manny said. He doesn't like that. I'm not overly keen on it. So I think really the only name there is probably Ben Chilwell, isn't it?
Yeah, he's.
Or not? Do you agree? Disagree? I mean,
I think you're probably right, to be honest.
Gentlemen, I wouldn't discount Tyreek Mitchell, though, if we can go back to that slide. That's the next one after this. Because the thing about Ben Chilwell, as several Chelsea fans will tell you, is that he hasn't exactly been very consistent. Actually, that's the slide after that, I think, yeah.
There he is.
So, yeah, Chilwell hasn't exactly been very consistent when it comes to playing at left back for Chelsea, and he has had to battle with Mark Cucurella from Brighton. At times, Cucurella has played right back this season, which really was awkward for him. I could never understand the logic behind that. But the thing about Chilwell is that although he may have some good attributes, I think his consistency, if you take a look at it in terms of that, he's been found wanting in several ways. As far as Mitchell is concerned, he has been, along with Ebery Eze and Michael Olise, one of the more consistent players for Crystal Palace this season. And at 24, he's certainly not too young, already has a couple of England caps to his credit. I wouldn't discount him either. I think in terms of form and consistency, I think I would actually prefer to give Mitchell the edge over Chilwell. And if you were to have Shaw and Mitchell as the left backs competing against one another, then it would be really interesting to see how that works. And even Chilwell as well in the recent internationals for England, I don't necessarily think he covered himself with much glory. So,
no.
I'm more tempted to pick to consider Mitchell, and you could also consider someone like Joe Gomez, who was actually used at left back in those games. Although I'm not too fond of that particular idea, and although there is a part of me that would definitely like to see Gomez in the squad, I just don't know if we can afford to have too many jacks of all trades in the squad, as it were, if you know what I mean. So, for left backs, I'd go with Shaw and Mitchell, but if Shaw isn't fit and cannot make it, then maybe Mitchell and Joe Gomez. I just don't think Chilwell is really up to it, to be honest.
It's a very, very interesting one, and I'm gonna have to say, Manny, you have sold it again to me.
Absolutely. Mitchell.
Yeah, I do rate him. I do really rate him. So I think, yeah, I would say, yeah, Mitchell. So at the moment we have got, and I know you can't see it on the screen because we're flicking between the slides, but we have got Kyle Walker, Kieran Trippier, Esri Konsa, Luke Shaw, and Tarek Mitchell. I think we better select some centre backs. And you know what? I'm going to do my own sales now. And I know it might be a strange one, but Mark Gooey, I think he's excellent. An
Yeah,
excellent defender.
I agree.
I think really two that you can't argue with that are definitely on there. I think even if he's not fully match fit, will be Maguire and Stones. I think those two would definitely be on there.
Yeah.
Definitely. And yeah, like I say, what you've said, Craig, I can't disagree with on that one. I've actually forgot about what Manny brought up with Lewis Dunk against Brazil. So yeah, how many does that take us up to if we put them three in?
Well, I'm just
8.
having a quick look.
8,
It
is it?
does take us up to the 8, so it will appear on your screen in just a moment. Albeit I am just getting everything in order before you can see it on the screen. See, as if by magic, it's all going to appear very, very shortly. Look at this. Drum roll, please. And there we all are. And there we have them. There we have them. So
Yes.
we got Carl Walker, Kieran Trippier, Esri Konsa, Luke Shaw, Tarek Mitchell, Slabhead himself, Harry Maguire, John Stones, and Mark Gooey, who I rate very, very highly. I don't think I've told you
Yes.
that before, have I?
Yes. Yeah.
Right. Should we have a look at some midfielders?
Yeah.
So are we clear that we have to pick 8 defenders for this one? I don't know how many Southgate will pick though.
Well, the squad.
I
See, it's an
think he might
interesting
pick
one.
more than that as he's taking 26. I think he'll have one more. I think, well, this is our own interpretation, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I think if I would personally take one more centre back, but that's just me. But should
The
we go
only
through
reason
and
I'm
have a look
thinking,
at some more? And then if we got one gap left, we think we might slot another centre back in, or
yeah, we can do. The way I'm thinking is it will be 3 goalkeepers, 8 defenders, 8 midfielders, and 7, strikers, wingers, those sort of positions. But that's not to say that one of those positions can't be an extra defender. But yeah, let's have a look
let's have a look. Let's have a look.
at
Midfielders then. We can always come back
midfielders.
and add another one in, can't we?
Yeah, exactly. Here they are. Let's remove ourselves. Oh, no, that's defenders still. Right, here we go. I'll leave it to you, Matt. Carry on.
Well, yeah, obviously, Declan Rice, got to be on the plane. I think
Oh,
he's an
shoeing. Absolute
Yep.
shoeing.
class midfielder.
Yeah.
One that probably won't be picked by any of us is probably Kelvin Phillips.
Mhm.
This young lad here, I think he's one for the future. Um, he's had a good season for United, but I
Mhm.
think it's a season, it's a tournament too early. I think he's still young, only 19. Mainu, is it? Is that how you pronounce his name?
Yeah,
Mainu?
Kobe Mainoo.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mainu. Yes.
I think he's a fantastic little player. Yeah, but I think it's a little bit too early for him.
Mhm.
Jordan Henderson, if you want my honest opinion here, this is just my opinion.
Yeah.
I think Gareth loves him. We all know that. But I think it's time now to start to blood in some more. We've got such a talented midfield that I think
Yeah.
with the likes of Rice, for me, I think Jordan Henderson's not needed now, really, even as part of the squad.
Agree with that.
That's just my opinion. We've got so much talent coming through that I think, Jordan Henderson, he had a wonderful Euros last time round. I thought he was impressive at the last Euros, but I think
Mhm.
now, he's been a great servant for England. But I personally wouldn't take him. Conor Gallagher, that's one that's on the fence for me. But it'd be interesting to see what you two think. Well, Jude, there's no even point in discussing that because he's straight
No,
up there. Um,
yeah.
Madison, um, it's an interesting one. Mason
Mhm.
Mount's injured, so he's not going to be
Yeah.
considered. James Ward-Prowse is always a player that is highly rated, but always seems to not make the squads.
Mhm.
Um, this is an interesting one because obviously Jared Bowen could be classed as a forward, as a winger.
Yeah.
But obviously, again, another great season for West Ham.
Mhm.
There was an interesting debate on Sky Sports the other day. I think it was Jamie O'Hara and someone else. They were debating whether he's a great player, but is he a player to go to a tournament? It was quite an interesting debate.
Mhm.
Then you got some here that again are put on the fringes, like Morgan Gibbs White. He's a great player, but I don't think he'd be selected this time.
No.
Curtis Jones, don't think he would be under consideration. Ross Barkley, on the other hand, has kind of had a new lease of life at Luton, and from the games that obviously we've seen him play against Bournemouth and other games I've seen him play on TV, I've been quite impressed with Ross Barkley this season.
Yeah, same here, to be honest.
Personally, myself. Ruben Loftus Cheek, decent season out in Italy. Harvey Elliott, big season for him. He's had a big season at
Mhm.
Liverpool. Made a lot of appearances. Is it time for him to step up? Yeah, I probably would say no, but he's definitely going to be one for the future. That's going to be selected in squads coming up. Eze at Palace.
Oh, he's brilliant. You know,
Uh,
the thing with Eze, and you know what I'm going to say here, him and Michael Elise, when they play together, they seem to get each other, 110%. I think when you don't have Elise next to Eze, I think he's half the player. When you don't have Eze next to Elise, he's half the player. So it's a difficult one for me. I really rate him, but that's my two bobs worth in there about Eze.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
you know, really do like him, really do like him. But is he one of these players that is going to take time to form a partnership because he's got such a solid one at Palace? And I don't know whether or not Manny agrees with me on that. Eze and Elise, they complement each other well. When
yeah.
one's not playing, the other doesn't play as well as normal.
I couldn't agree more. It's like those two are, you could consider them conjoined twins, as it were.
I mean,
only they're only they're not because Elise's from France. I don't know if he'll be considered for the French team.
He
Elise,
has actually. He has
has
actually. In
he?
fact, France have released their full squad, and courtesy, of course, of the Messiah or the messenger that is Fabrizio Romano, France have in fact released their squad, and yep. Um, wait, hold on. No, sadly, Elise is not in the French squad. I'm sorry, gentlemen. I think
Oh,
sold you a little bit there, but I do apologise for that.
I was
But
gonna say Eze coming up against Elise, be an
it
interesting
would have
one.
been it would have been good. It would have been good. It would have been good. But obviously, Didier Deschamps has gone for some tried and trusted players, either from
Yeah,
French teams gone by or from uh, players playing in the top clubs and leagues around Europe. So sadly, no room for adventure with Monsieur Deschamps. But Elise shouldn't rule himself out as one for the future. It's
I think
sad, but it is what it is.
Elise, a little bit like Haaland, could have played for England. I might be wrong in that, but I think. Elise
You
could have
might be
played for
right.
England.
You might be right.
Yeah.
I'm sure Manny's straight on it, and he's going to tell us in a minute.
Yeah.
Born
Um,
in Hammersmith in London, not too far from Fulham, he absolutely could have played for England. And of course, former Arsenal and Chelsea youth player, along with Manchester City, among others, began his professional career with Reading and has since been at Crystal Palace. He could definitely have played for England. And in addition to that, he could have played for Algeria or Nigeria, in addition to France, given his ancestry, and was actually called up firstly by the French under-18 team, and since then he's pretty much thrown in his lot with France, having played for the under-18s and under-21s. I mean, technically, though, he could still play senior football for any one of those four nations, but as of now, I think his loyalties are with France. But if he does choose to throw in his lot with England, then Eze and Elise playing together would be wonderful. And don't forget Mitchell at left back potentially.
Do you know what? There we are. Gareth, if you are watching this, give them a call and get Elise in an England shirt now before France do. Carry on.
Jack Grealish. I'm a big fan of Grealish.
Yeah.
But I think he's kind of struggled a little bit with injuries this season. So how fit he is questionable. But I think he for me would make the squad.
He'd have to be on the plane for me as well.
Foden, what can you say?
He's
on
a
there.
shoo-in.
He's on there.
Yeah, definitely.
And even this lad, Cole Palmer.
Yes.
How can you not pick him? I think. I mean, maybe Manny might have a different thought, and maybe you will, Craig. But for me, I've watched quite a bit of Chelsea this season, and what I have seen, not the overall Chelsea performances at the early start of the season. Some of them were, not very good at all. But he always seemed to be that little jewel in the crown, and I think he's a great player, and I think a very brave move for him to want to leave City and pursue first team football in the way he did, and I think it's paying off for him, isn't it? Really. So, this man Saka, again, love him.
Oh, he's got to be. He would probably be up there with Bellingham and Rice as one of the first names on there. I don't think he can't not go. I've got to be honest.
For me, if I was picking this squad on my own, 4 out of the 5 on this page would be in the squad. But I think there's some outsiders here. Obviously, the 2 at the end are classed as forwards. I mean, Anthony Gordon could be classed as a forward, and so could Emil Smith Rowe, really. But I think he's injured, so I don't think he'll be in contention. And he hasn't really played much this season, under 20 games. Is he injured, Manny Smith Rowe?
He's not injured, but he is still currently in the squad on the bench, not getting too much in terms of game time. And like Ramsdale, he will have to leave Arsenal for first team opportunities.
Okay. Well, I reckon, should we look at centre mids first?
Yeah, I think there's only
I
one.
Think Southgate will play 3 midfielders, won't he?
Yeah,
so,
I think Bellingham has to be on there. There is no. He is by far the best, and I'll say this now: he's the best player we've produced in my lifetime. I'll say that now. I know we've had some really, really good players, and you say the Frank Lampards, Steven Gerrards of this world, Beckham. Beckham, was magical with his feet. Crossing the ball, fantastic. But Bellingham has something else. And do you know what? I think that move to Spain could be, one of the best moves ever. But it's remarkable because we've got a number of players that I don't think are that far behind him, considering he's world class. He will be one of the best players in the world at some point, if not already.
Well, if I could just say that, I mean, Craig, I don't think you could big him up anymore if you tried, to be fair. And
Yeah.
I mean, I forget sometimes he's as young as he is, Bellingham. But I think maybe all three of us will agree on Rice and Bellingham straight in there.
Oh,
Yes.
100%.
Right.
100%.
So shall we do that then? Shall we whack those two in then, Craig?
They're
Yep.
already in there.
Excellent.
They're already in there.
Okay. Obviously, I would class Saka as a forward, not as a midfielder.
Yeah, Saka probably would fall into the forward
Midfield.
category.
Yeah. So I mean, if you're going ahead of the game and you've got him listed, I would definitely
Move him into the
move
forwards.
into the forwards.
Yeah.
I mean, Manny,
Yes.
what do you reckon?
Well, first of all, I'm also going to play spoil sport and try and sell you on a player who I'm sure neither of you would want this time, but we all know that Southgate will pick him. But I think also that this bloke, in as much as he has badly struggled this season, has got to be on the plane. Now, Matthew, you spoke about Jordan Henderson. I think when you take a look at the last Euros, he actually was more of a backup midfielder who would come on for Declan Rice. And it was Rice and Calvin Phillips who pretty much formed that partnership throughout the Euros as we played the 4-2-3-1.
Yeah.
Now, when it came to the World Cup, Phillips was struggling for fitness and subsequently played hardly any part. So, interestingly enough, Southgate made the decision to go with a three-man midfield of Henderson, Bellingham, and Rice. And so if you were to put those two in there, you can't not pick Henderson. Now, I say this obviously because, I know your hearts are going to sink. We all know that Southgate will pick him and then probably usher him into England retirement afterwards, the way he looks to have done with Raheem Sterling. But Henderson, you cannot deny, provides so much value to this England team. And I wasn't expecting him to be a starter in Qatar, but he actually really, really impressed me with the way he also played a big part in holding that midfield together and making sure that they ticked quite brilliantly in their run to the quarterfinals. Now, I also take the point that whenever he has played for England in recent times, whenever he's been picked, he hasn't quite necessarily been at his best. But, the whole turmoil surrounding his decision to go to Saudi Arabia and then terminate that deal and then move to Holland and play with the now fallen giants at Ajax Amsterdam, it hasn't really worked with him. But we all know that Henderson provides so much value to the squad, whether as a player or not. I don't necessarily like it, but we all know that Henderson will be picked. And I will definitely agree with you that this should be the last England tournament that he plays in, because Phillips has ruled himself out. And I don't see any other central midfielder in that selection, not even the likes of Conor Gallagher, who can really perform the role that Henderson does. If you have Rice, Bellingham, and Henderson as that triumvirate, I think that's how you pronounce it, you have an option where you can either go for a 4-3-3 with those three in the midfield, or if Southgate decides to go for a 4-2-3-1, it will be Rice and Henderson playing the two defensive midfield pivots, with Bellingham as the number 10, as the middle central point of that three-man attacking midfield, with Saka on the right and maybe someone else on the left. It could be Foden or someone else. We'll have to take a look and see. But you can see that those three together will be a very big part of Southgate's plans in this particular tournament, at the very least, if not further. And I think Henderson might also decide to call it quits after Euro 2024 anyway. But for this tournament, I would actually consider Jordan Henderson being picked. Even if he doesn't get to play, he would certainly provide a lot in terms of leadership. But we have to assume that when he is on form and picked and really playing well, he will start as one of those three main midfielders, either as one of the two defensive midfield pivots or one of those three men in the midfield. So if we were to have those three sort of in the center, then we can consider basing the squad around them in terms of cover for that region. And we will sadly have to rule out Calvin Phillips. I think for Kobe Mainu, it's also a tournament too early. Gallagher has shown some potential, but has been rather inconsistent. I still think he makes the squad, but I don't know if he will start. but I would actually pick Henderson for the tournament. I wonder if you guys are welcome to agree or disagree, and I respect your opinion, but I hope you can understand where I'm coming from.
I
I
think
can
it's
understand.
yeah. I think
Yeah.
I can't argue with you, man. You got to put him in there, Craig.
Oh yeah, I can
I think
understand why you've
Matt's
done it.
points are absolutely valid there. I mean,
Yeah,
yeah, I do.
yeah. I can understand, but personally, hand on heart, would I have him in there
I
myself?
probably wouldn't hand and heart,
No.
but I think Manny's point
Yeah,
there is
it's
spot
very
on.
valid. Yeah. The thing is I always saw, Henderson probably in the midfield, he was a bit younger, he hadn't he was playing for a Liverpool side who were doing decent. I wasn't ever really a big fan of his back then, but I've got to, he's a, see the thing is it's the Saudi Arabia move that really, does it for me, and why I've been erring that we shouldn't take him. Yeah, I know it's all about money. It's one big last payday potentially, but when you're playing, and of course we saw in the David Beckham documentary, top players to stay at the top of their game have to play against top players, and Jordan Henderson was doing that at Liverpool. Now, if he, and he could have done what James Milner's done and could have left Liverpool and gone to maybe ourselves, for example. He comes to Bournemouth, does well, he's playing against top players, he gets picked for the England squad. What he did chose to do was to go to Saudi Arabia. Yep, I know Gerard's over there. But at the same time, he's gone to Saudi Arabia. He's playing against lesser players. It hasn't worked out over there. He's gone to Ajax. It hasn't really worked there either. The best thing he could do is come back to the Premier League next season, for his own benefit. But Manny, very, very valid points why he should be there.
Yeah,
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, I see where you're coming from with the Saudi deal and the controversial move that was. And I'm reminded of what happened when a certain Solskjaer, Jeremiah Campbell, decided to leave Portsmouth and move all the way to Notts County.
Yeah.
And that was a shocker of a move that time. Obviously, nowhere near as financially rewarding. And Campbell was saying all he was going to say in response to why he wanted to move there was it's for the future. But we all know it didn't
Mm,
work out. Then, sensationally, in January that season, it was 2009, 2010, he made a sensational return to Arsenal where he went on
yeah.
to play his 200th match for us. He ended up having a really fine season with us where he showed us that his abilities were still very much there. In the North London Derby, his brilliant run to strip the ball away from Gareth Bale was a thing of beauty and a joy forever. And based on those performances, especially when you consider that the likes of Ledley King and Jamie Carragher were picked in that squad, I was seething that Campbell wasn't considered by Fabio Capello. And
Mhm.
King, of course, as we all know, went on to get injured. And, there's less said about that forgettable tournament, the better. Maybe it's just as well that Sol didn't go on to add a seventh major tournament to his CV by way of he avoided pretty much sullying his England legacy, but he deserved to be a part of that squad. I just think, though, that the fact that he wasn't playing top level football for the majority of that season, it kind of worked against him. So I do see where you're coming from with Henderson. But we all know that Southgate has his favourites. I still think that
Mhm.
Henderson will decide to call it quits from England after the Euros because he will know that time is not on his side. But for this tournament, I think you can't not pick him. And if we take a look at some of the other options, I just think many of them are either inconsistent or unproven. So you can't not pick Henderson.
Yeah. No, I completely understand where you're coming from.
can I
And
can I
go
make
on.
a suggestion?
Hmm.
Can we pick one more midfielder and then look at the forwards, the attacking
Oh,
players?
we're going to cut ahead because at the moment I have got in here. So I've got Declan Rice, Jude Bellingham, Jordan Henderson, and I've got Phil Foden at the moment. But of
Yeah,
course,
yeah.
Foden could
Phil,
move to the forwards.
no. That's fine if you've got Foden in there. So
Hmm.
that's yeah. So who else have you got in there?
So yeah, it's those ones that I've got. Oh, and Cole Palmer as well. Sorry, I
Right,
do apologise.
that's spot on. Now, what I would suggest to you two
Hmm.
now, can we look at the forwards?
And then come
Yeah,
back, right?
Because I think it might create space to maybe pick another centre back and then a midfielder at the end.
yeah,
Brilliant. I love that.
makes sense. Look at
Yeah,
this.
right.
Right. So
I've
let's
also, can I just confess something?
go on.
Marcus Rashford is missing off this list. Um,
He's been missing all season, hasn't he?
so
Yeah.
should we start with Marcus Rashford
Yeah.
quickly?
Let's start with
Um,
Marcus Rashford.
Marcus Rashford on his day
Mhm. Let's get back to that one.
is um, world class, isn't he? And I think
Very
if you look back
talented.
at his career, he has had a great season where he bangs in like 30 goals. Then he sort of dips. Then the following season again, he bang in another good amount of goals. He
Yeah.
kind of his career kind of is a bit up and down, isn't it? And I think this season he's kind of had one of his down seasons because I'm pretty certain he scored about 30 goals last year, didn't he, for United?
Yep. Roundabout.
So if we're picking purely on form, is Rashford in the squad?
Based on this season, no. Based on last season,
Last season he'd be in the squad, absolutely.
yeah.
Manny,
Um.
what do you think?
Well, I mean, if you're going to use that sort of reasoning, the same reasoning would apply for Mr. Grealish, of course, a pivotal part of
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
City's treble triumph, but who has struggled for fitness and confidence this season.
yeah,
Um,
totally agree.
I, the thing about Rashford, though, is that I think one thing we've learned about Southgate is that there are just some players who, regardless of however well they do or don't do at
Mhm.
club level, are always going to be Southgate players. They're always going to find places in the squad no matter what. And it proved, of course, as Rashford ended up being picked for those friendly internationals. And the thing about Rashford is that whenever he's played for England, for the most part, he has really only been a substitute with a certain Captain Kane starting practically every time. And whenever he's come on, more often than not for England, he's delivered the goods in many big ways and certainly provided some kind of an impact.
Yeah.
So you would think that based on reputation, he would probably end up staying and, I mean, being a part of the squad. Now, he wasn't in the squad when United played Arsenal for some reason. I think that might have been due to some sort of an injury. So again, we will have to see if fitness determines that he may not even be available, like Mr. Shaw, for the FA Cup final, and he may also be in a race against time to be fit for the selection of the squad in the main tournament. So we
Mhm.
could put him to the back burner. One person who definitely will be in the squad, of course, is Harry Kane, and you've also got to have Ollie Watkins in there, definitely. After the season that he's had with Villa, you can't not
Yeah.
pick him. I know that some people will bang the drum for Ivan Toney, but he's just fallen off of late at Brentford. And that penalty aside for England, I just don't know if he's done enough at club level to really, demand that Southgate punch in his ticket for him. So for me, it would be Kane and Watkins to start off. And if we take a look at the other forwards, we can see if Rashford has a place.
Yeah, I've got to be honest. I think Kane and Watkins, are dead certs for me. And wow, Harry Kane, dead certs. Oh, we're keeping Bukayo Saka, aren't we, in the forwards tab as well?
Yeah,
Yep,
Yep, we have
yeah.
to.
So I think Kane. Let's go with Kane and Watkins. Ivan Tony, I know you've just mentioned there. Right. I think it's time to mention what I mentioned to Richard Archer and Adam Devlin, and asked them to pick, and their answers were very, very interesting. Both of them. You'll have to watch back those interviews. Shameless plug. Um,
Nothing shameless about it. You have a right to ask us too, and I am in particular guilty of not being able to watch any of your fine interviews. I mean,
Yeah.
whenever I do, they're an absolute treat, but more often than not, I'm found wanting. So I do apologise, mate.
No problem at all. No problem at all. Apology accepted. Um, but Solanke versus Toney. Now, my honest opinion, and I said this to you, didn't I, Matt, on Saturday, just gone, and I said Toney looks disinterested. He looks completely disinterested. Now, the thing is when a player looks disinterested, I don't get this. This is one thing. I'm going to go off on a little tangent now, but I don't get it because at the end of the day, a player who is being paid by Brentford should be working their backsides off for Brentford. I don't care who's coming in for him, in the summer. I think it's a case that he should be working his backside off. And if I was Mikel Arteta, I would be looking and thinking, do I really want this player? But of course, we're picking an England squad here. I wouldn't take him because of his attitude. The gambling thing aside, put that to one side. Don't agree with that. Don't agree with his whole demeanour about that either. But based on what they've both done this season, Solanke 100% is over Ivan Toney. But is Solanke on that plane?
For me, and not being biased just because I am a Bournemouth fan, he is on that plane. It's like
Thank
Ollie
you.
Watkins. Ollie Watkins offers something different to Kane and would offer something different to Dom Solanke. But Watkins, his form this season, he's earned his right to be on that plane, as well as, in my opinion, Dom Solanke. And you're absolutely right, Craig. I mean, watching that game last week against Brentford, Toney just didn't look in the game at all, did he? He didn't look interested, like you say. And I think that's been the point of view of quite a lot of Brentford fans as well. So for me, I would have three what you would call forwards, as in strikers. And the three for me would be Harry Kane, Ollie Watkins, and Dom Solanke. The rest of the forwards would be wide players.
100%. And
Absolutely.
I know everybody's going to come on here and go, well, you're a Bournemouth channel. I'm sorry, but that's the way I see it. Solanke.
Let's just. I know you're going to go on a tangent again, Craig, but let's look at it this way.
Mm-hmm.
Let's compare if Dom was doing. Say Dom's form this season was last season, where he scored 6-7 goals. Dom wouldn't be on the plane.
No.
If his form was like last season, for me, he wouldn't be on the plane. But this season, he scored, what, 20, 21 goals in total, is it, across all competitions?
Yeah.
So, and for me, I think he's more. People can compare Toney as similar to Kane. He's more of a similar option to Kane, but I think anything that Kane can do, obviously Kane is the ultimate finisher, but in terms of dropping deep and being a footballer, in terms of picking the ball up and starting to create something, Dom can do that role as well.
Yeah,
completely
agree.
For me, he's on the plane. He's on the plane.
Personally, I think Dom does it better.
Ooh,
that's interesting.
I tell you what. Am I going to get a load of abuse from Brentford fans now?
I don't know whether he does.
No, you're not. You're not. Listen, you did that previous.
Sorry. In terms of Toney, is that?
Yeah.
Oh right. Okay. Yeah. No, I agree with you. Sorry, I agree with you.
No, listen, and let me say, Craig, you're not going to get any abuse because I think Brentford fans would also agree that Toney really has no claim to the England squad right now. I think he's lost his chance mentally, and there's no question of bias here. 41 appearances, 21 goals, a strike rate of better than 50%. No football fan worth his salt can argue, or worth their salt can argue with that. So yeah, he has to be on the plane. Simple as that.
Do we think that Gareth will pick him?
No.
That's my thought
But
as well.
this is the squad we would pick. So
Yeah,
you know, and we're
exactly.
doing this for just a bit of fun, aren't we? And
I hope that Gareth will pick him.
I'm
You know, I
praying.
think he
I'm praying.
deserves it, but
Let's
at the same time, yeah.
let's not
he
lose
should-
hope, gentlemen. There's still some time before the squad will be picked, and managers have made, some really, sensational calls before. I think not even Southgate can be blind to
Mhm,
Dom's form at the moment. So I know he hasn't been considered, but if, as you've said, when it comes to Southgate against Toney, I'd pick Southgate. Toney has lost his chance mentally, and I think a lot of people are starting to realize that he isn't all that he's necessarily built up to be, as it were. So
mhm.
I definitely pick Solanke, and especially if we take a look at the other strikers in consideration. Again, it's a bit like the midfielders, with several of them being either unproven or inconsistent or just plain not quite good enough, really.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at
Yeah.
the other strikers.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I think on that note, I mean, that gives us 4 players in the forwards now, doesn't it? It gives
Oh,
us
yeah, it does. You're right.
3
You're right.
strikers,
yes. We got
and a wide player. So should we pick um 4 more wide players?
yeah, can do. So we got Kane, Ollie Watkins, we got Dom, and we got Bukayo Saka, who has to be on the plane. Let's be honest. Bukayo Saka not being on the plane would be absolutely ridiculous. Southgate should be
Scan,
sacked
s-
beforehand.
scandalous. Scandalous is the
Yes,
word, Craig.
It's quite interesting.
he'll be on there. He'll be on there.
Foden can obviously play wide, but we're including him in the midfield.
Yeah.
So let's go back a few slides.
Mhm.
Um,
Can I throw one into the ring? You have already mentioned him, actually, Matt, but Jack Grealish on the plane for me.
okay,
100%.
yeah. I mean, I think I would take Grealish as well. Um,
Yeah.
absolutely. And then that for me is the 4 out of the 5 on this screen are the ones that would be going.
Yep.
I think Eze will miss out, and I think the thing is, like you both have said, you know, you seem to think he's, what was it you used, Craig? Half the player when he's not playing with,
Yeah, I think,
and I
yeah.
think at international level, I don't think you can really,
Hmm.
it's a shame because he is quality, but I think I think your points are very valid there. So, I mean, yeah, I would personally take Grealish. Another one I think I would take as well is Anthony Gordon. But I mean, I chuck that one out there to you both. I mean,
Interesting one.
he was someone that Eddie Howe really fought for to sign at Newcastle.
Hmm.
I think the board of directors there didn't want to pay the money that Everton wanted, but I think Howe had to convince them, and it's paid off for him. I think he's had a superb season. Um, I think he's for me he's on the plane.
He didn't enjoy it at Everton, did he?
I, I don't know. I mean, he's an Everton boy, isn't he? I
Yeah.
mean, the thing is he made a great move for his career, um,
Hmm.
and he's only 23. Um, for me, I think personally he goes. Will he play a lot? I don't know. Um,
Hmm.
but
I
I
think he
think
might. I think he might, because I love how both of you are suggesting that Grealish goes. And you will, of course, remember the history of Southgate. Whenever Grealish has featured for England in major tournaments, he's come on as more of an impact sub.
yes, yeah, yeah,
Now, the strange thing is that, a little bit like Kevin Keegan in years gone by, I don't know if either of you boys will remember the '82 World Cup. I don't know if either of you were born then. I was, but I never really started watching football then at all. Kevin Keegan obviously was supposed to be captain for the tournament and was given the number 7 jersey, which was sort of outside he was made an exception really to England's numbering policy, which was strictly alphabetical, which meant that despite being the starting goalkeeper, Peter Shilton wore number 22 and Ray Clements wore number 11, and several other players were given some very awkward numbers. Mick Mills, who captained the team in that tournament, wore the number 12 in Keegan's absence. Keegan, of course, came on as a substitute, I believe, against Spain. Was that? I don't remember. Or it might have been against France, maybe. And he obviously missed that chance for an open goal. And, of course, his England career ended. So Grealish obviously comes on wearing the number 7 jersey and is very, very useful as an impact player. And, of course, you know, you can't really look too far beyond the class that he oozes, really, whenever he plays for England in many ways. So if you have someone like an Anthony Gordon, who has probably been in better form at club level than Grealish, you have your option there as to who can play on the left. And
Good
I think
point.
Gordon, when he was picked for England, obviously showed his own capabilities in that respect. And I certainly wouldn't mind having him on in the squad on the plane. He would probably be slightly ahead of Grealish in the pecking order as to who could play on the left, although maybe he may decide to play Foden and Saka both. I don't know if that'll work, but whatever. But Gordon would be there, as would Grealish. So I wouldn't mind picking Gordon in the squad at all, to be honest.
I think I agree with you both.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Yeah, I think. Are we going to put him in with the midfielders? Because at the moment we've put Bukayo Saka and Jack Grealish in with the forwards.
Yeah, because they're wide players, aren't they?
Yeah, of course.
So I think, yeah. How many places have we got?
So we've got the 8 defenders.
No, hold on. I'm just on the forwards.
On the forwards,
yeah,
we have got 5 forwards at the moment.
So does that include Gordon?
That doesn't, no.
Okay, so that'll take us to 6, will it?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Let's put him in.
Now, if I can just make a suggestion here.
Yes.
For the midfield.
I tell you what, let me, before we move on, let's show where we're up to.
Excellent. Okay.
So this is the team as it stands. So goalkeepers: Pickford, Ramsdale, Butland. Defenders: we have got Carl Walker. We've got Kieran Trippier, Konsa, Luke Shaw, Mitchell, Slabhead. Let's call him Slabhead. John Stones.
Mate, that is cruel, really.
Mark
I'm not
Dewey.
too fond of him myself, but Slabhead is cruel.
We've got for midfielders Declan Rice, Jude Bellingham. They pick themselves. Jordan Henderson, Phil Foden, and Cole Palmer. And then forwards Harry Kane, Ollie Watkins, Dom, Bukayo Saka, Jack Grealish, Anthony Gordon.
Well, can I make a suggestion and put it to you two that we add Trent to the midfield to complete the midfield?
Yes, I concur.
Yep, I think
cool.
that's yep.
Okay, excellent.
But is that too? Have we got enough? But then again, midfield wise, I was just thinking.
You're playing free, Craig. You're starting free.
Yeah.
So if you're starting free, that's Rice, Bellingham, Henderson. Like I say, Foden will probably, is more of a wide player, but he can also play midfield as well. Cole Palmer again, and then Trent. Trent is a great passer with the ball in the middle of the park. So I feel it's quite a good midfield. Should we add a centre back?
Let's add a centre back. And who would that centre back be?
For me, it would be the young lad at Chelsea. Colwill, was it?
I'd sooner go for Branthwaite.
Yes, sorry, no, sorry, yeah, no, I totally agree because you see,
Are
for
we
me,
overlooking Deer though?
who
Are we
Dyer.
overlooking Eric Dyer?
I think Eric Dyer for experience, but then you could sit Eric Dyer in the midfield. You could move Foden to the forwards and add Dyer to the midfield.
It's a good one. It's a very, very good one.
See, for me, I mean, if I was picking this solely, I would have Colwell over who you picked. But that's just me.
Jared Branthwaite, I think,
But I think what Manny said, I reckon that's who we add in.
Jared Branthwaite.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, he's done a very, very good job for Everton this year. Everton haven't been particularly the greatest of sides, let's be fair. So, yeah, I think, we've got to put him in. I'm just going to go back to the screen and we'll just have a look at his stats. Where are we? Where is he again? There he is. So, yeah, 40 appearances, in what is a side that has been struggling, but he's improved them tenfold. So we're putting him into the defenders, are we?
Yes, I would.
Okay,
Yeah.
fair enough. But we're Phil Foden. Are we moving him up to the forward line to put in Eric Dyer? I always call him Eric Dyer, but
Yeah,
I
but
don't know
then
why.
yeah, but then again, you could argue there, you could possibly put Conor Gallagher in.
We haven't picked
Interesting.
Gallagher, though, have we?
We haven't as yet, no.
No.
And I also realised that one player we really shouldn't consider overlooking is Ross Barkley.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
Experience as well.
I think, and obviously he's not going to get into Southgate's squad, but I think if I was picking it, I would have Barkley in there. So let's move Foden to the forward line.
Foden is being moved to the forward line right now. You can't
And, let,
see it, but it's happening.
and let's add in Ross Barkley. I
Ross
think he's had a
Barkley.
great season. I remember when he broke into the sort of mainstream, people were indicating that he was the new Gascoigne.
Yeah.
I thought when he was a youngster at Everton, I thought he was a fantastic player, and it's great to see that he's got some of his mojo back.
Such a shame, isn't it? Because at the end of the day, he is a talented player. He's such a talented player. But I think he has done very, very well for Luton. I know they've gone down, but I think he's
I'm,
done very,
yeah,
very well this year.
yeah, and I'm just glad that Manny reminded us. To be honest,
Yeah.
that is like Manny said, it's overlooking. So, yeah.
Well, let's have a little look at this list as it stands. So that's what it looks like. So we got 3 goalkeepers. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 defenders. We got 6 midfielders. We got
18.
18. It's good you can do the maths, Manny, because I'm useless. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 forwards.
So exactly one more left.
One more player left,
Ooh.
and for me, that's another forward player. I think.
And I know who I'm going for. And I
Okay.
know he's had a poor season, but he is a bit of a wild card. And that player is Marcus Rashford.
Southgate player. He won't not be picked. That's the thing.
So I mean, when you look at it, Jared Bowen's form this season has been fantastic. Rashford would be ahead of him, I think, in Southgate's picking. Yeah. I mean, like I say, I like Rashford on his day. He's a great player. Will he be a starter if he's in this squad? No, but he will give Southgate options from the bench. So I've got to agree with you two. Yeah, Marcus Rashford.
But then again, and I'll throw this out there, are we overlooking Tammy Abraham?
The thing about Abraham, Craig, is that for some reason or another, Southgate has not even considered either Tomori or Tammy. And now that Loftus-Cheek is in Italy, I don't think he's considered them either. It is a crime, really, because you would think that playing for a side like AC Milan, which is regularly contesting for the Scudetto, and of course finished second this time around, you think would be grounds to be picked. But knowing Southgate the way we do, it just wouldn't really be that way.
No.
And Southgate obviously wants to pick players who either have served him well in the past or who are in better form currently in the English leagues. So, sadly and tragically, because both Abraham and Tomori would add so much to the squad, that rules them out, and it also rules out Loftus-Cheek for that very reason. So, did you say you wanted to include another forward or another midfielder?
I think Rashford is probably going to be the way we go then.
Yeah, Rashford, I think.
Rashford. Yeah. Right. So Rashford is in. So this is our squad. This is our squad as it stands. So Jordan Pickford, Rambo, Jack Butland, Carl Walker, Kieran Trippier, Ezri Konsa, Luke Shaw, Tyreek Mitchell, Slabhead, Harry Maguire, John Stones, Mark Gooey, and what's
Gerrard.
Jared Bramthwaite. Sorry, I do apologise, Everton fans. I know a lot of you watch it, don't unsubscribe. Declan Rice, Jude Bellingham, Jordan Henderson. I'm going
Cole
mad
Palmer.
now.
Cole Palmer.
Cole Palmer. Do you want to carry on? I'm messing
Cole
this
Palmer.
right up, and I.
Trent. Alexander Arnold. Ross Barkley. Harry Kane. Ollie Watkins. Dom Solanke. Saka. Jack Grealish. Anthony Gordon. Phil Foden. And Marcus Rashford.
You can tell it's been a long day, can't you?
Yeah, but gentlemen, I've got an idea for you. It might perhaps be a little bit longer because it just occurred to me. Taking a look at the squad, we've picked a gentleman in Luke Shaw who is still not guaranteed to be 100% fit. So I wonder if we shouldn't pick a list of 4 or 5 players who would be on standby.
Excellent. Right, let's quickly do that. So,
shall we go back to our previous sheet? So that is who is on the plane, ideally. However, we are going to go back to the sheet. And if there is any other suggestions, by all means, put it in the comment section. A bit of interactivity. Let's go back. I'll tell you what. Shall we go back to page 1? And
probably not, because I already have an idea of who we should pick as the standby goalkeeper. And we were obviously discussing saying that Pickford and Ramsdale would be the shoe-ins. Ramsdale very fortunate to be there despite having had a poor season, a difficult season, but Southgate has picked him regularly. It was effectively between Henderson and Butland for the third goalkeeper spot, but if the worst happens and somebody has to drop out injured, Henderson, he'd be standby.
Agree. So Henderson is a standby player. We're going to make a note of that. Oh, the police car is going past. But Henderson.
I know you two are good boys. You don't get into any trouble. And that's why I love being with you.
We don't get into trouble. Not much, anyway.
Right. For me, it's just gone past my window. So anyway, right.
Let's have a look at our next backup player. Where are we going? Do you want to take control of it, Matt?
Yeah, that's fine.
Go on, mate.
Should we go defenders? So on that screen there, currently we've got 4 in the squad.
Mm-hmm.
For me, are we just picking So we picking like a fullback, a centre back, a midfielder, and
The thing is, though, Matt, when it comes to standby players, you want to pick. I'm going for maybe a list of 5, 1 goalkeeper, maybe 3 out of the midfielders and defenders, and 1 striker. And I'm thinking this chap, Joe Gomez, I was bigging him up earlier.
yeah.
And I remember saying that the reason why he might miss out is because we probably can't afford to have too many, jacks of all trades who are masters of none. But if we have a situation where Luke Shaw can't make it, then someone like a Joe Gomez, I say this with gritted teeth because, as you know, gentlemen, I do not like the side of a right back playing left back. But obviously, Southgate, when he picked his squad and obviously saw them play against Brazil and Germany, he used Gomez as a backup left back. And Klopp has also been willing to sing his praises for his versatility. So this is a chap that can play at right back and left back. And we've already got some decent centre-back cover in Ezri Konsa and a few others. And Konsa, I've always stated, deserves to be on the plane for his own versatility. And I would also consider Joe Gomez to be one of the defenders on standby. I'd like to know what you think.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Would we have another defender as well? Or would that be it? Are we looking at 2 midfielders and a striker now? Or where do we go?
I think that could possibly be it for the defenders, because I think it's fair to I think we can safely say that Tomori, for all of his qualities, won't be picked by Southgate. And I don't see any other defender really making a big case, banging down the door demanding to be picked.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. Okay. If you both agree, okay, that's cool. Should we have a look then at midfielders? Now, I think for me,
I would say Madison.
I'm not too convinced personally. I think in recent games for Tottenham, he hasn't quite been convincing.
No.
But the reason, another good thing about the standby list is that now you can consider putting a place in for Eric Dyer if you like, if you think he can add something to the squad.
Yeah, I would do.
you could go here. You could go. I reckon there's 3 potential players:
Go on.
Conor Gallagher,
Mm-hmm.
Kobe Mainu, and Eric Dyer. 2 of the 3.
I would say Eric Dyer and Conor Gallagher.
Right. Good call. Because with Eric Dyer, you have someone who plays as a defensive midfielder like he did in Russia 2018, or as someone who can play at centre back. So
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Standby forward for me is pretty easy.
as long as it's not Eddie Nketiah, you're golden.
Well, I mean, Southgate likes him. Southgate has rated him. Again, he's had injuries this season. But would he put someone like Callum Wilson? Would you put would we, because let's forget Southgate, but would we put someone like Callum Wilson on standby or even Toney?
I'd pick Wilson all day long over Toney. Maybe an older head, somebody with that little bit more experience. Should have got a lot more England caps than he has. As you can tell, I'm not a big Toney fan, to be fair.
Yeah, the fact that Wilson got picked ahead of Toney for Qatar pretty much says it all, really. Any other forwards that we might have missed?
I'm trying to think. Tammy Abraham, but then again,
he's not going.
no.
Poor chap.
Um,
I would go Wilson.
I would say that's the standby list.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
So Henderson, Gomez, Dyer, Gallagher, and then Callum Wilson. We have a look at our
Beautiful.
chart one last time, shall we?
Yeah. Do you want me to do the
So
rundown, Craig, from top to bottom?
reappear. Yeah, because at the end of the day, I stuffed it up last time round. So you far away,
Okay,
mate. You
so
far away.
the final 26 that we've picked between the three of us. So, well, what should we call it? The UTCID England squad for Euro 24, I suppose.
Yep.
And
And I will make sure that I share this with quite a few of my friends and get them to watch this video and see if they can comment. Yeah.
excellent,
Yep.
excellent, absolutely. Anyway, it's all just for a bit of fun, isn't it? You know.
Exactly.
Goalkeepers then. So Jordan Pickford, Aaron Ramsdale, Jack Butland. Defenders: Kyle Walker, Kieran Trippier. Forgotten his name already.
Esri
Esri
Konsa.
Konsa.
That's it. Ezri Konsa. Shaw, Mitchell, Maguire, Stones.
That's Gooey.
Is it?
Mark
That's
Gooey, yeah.
Mark Gooey.
That's Mark
And
Gooey.
then we've also got, he's too small. Who's that?
Jared Brantwaite.
Jared
That's
Bradbury.
what was throwing me is, unfortunately I had to find some images whilst we were doing this because we had a load of images saved and then we had some duplicates of some, some that weren't in there. So hey, it's one of
So
those things.
complete the squad then. We've got the midfielders. We've gone with Declan Rice, Jude Bellingham, the experienced Henderson, Cole Palmer. We've gone with Trent in the midfield. And we've also gone with a bit of a surprise, but this is obviously our squad. We've gone with Ross Barkley. And then forward players, obviously Harry Kane, Ollie Watkins. No big surprise that we've picked him, but is he on the plane? We'll find out soon. Dom Solanke, Saka, Jack Grealish, Anthony Gordon, Phil Foden, and finally Marcus Rashford, with a standby of Dean Henderson, Joe Gomez, Eric Dyer, Conor Gallagher, and Callum Wilson.
There we go.
Beautiful.
There we are. That is a good team, and hopefully that would be the team that can win us the Euros. And to be honest, we are highly rated. We're, one of the favourites. And personally, I think we've got the best squad in years to do it. We've got a lot of emerging talent. We've got lots of established talent. We've got possibly the best player, in my opinion, in Europe at the moment, in Jude Bellingham. Sorry, Mbappe. But I think, we have got a very, very, very good team. So hopefully, fingers crossed, we can do it. But let us know what you think as well below in that comment section. Put in there your England team because it'd be quite interesting to see how people's vary, and even if there's a player that we've not thought of. I can expect some strange ones, but let us know what you think. But yeah, I think it's been good fun doing this, hasn't it?
Yes, it's all good fun, isn't it? And be interesting to see who Gareth does pick. And obviously, we'll have a show on that evening to debate the actual selection that Gareth makes, which will be quite interesting.
Most definitely, most definitely. Guys, remember, hit like, subscribe, the bell. It helps the channel to grow. Until the next video, thank you everybody for joining us. From myself, Matt, and of course, Mr. Manny, thank you again, and we'll see you in the next one.